What's your favorite book you've read and why? The Redwall series by Brian Jacques. I love the adventure and questing and figuring out riddles. The way he described the feasts. God, I always wished I could experience a feast like that. The way he would write the different dialects for the different animals was so much fun. They are young adult books. But I'm nearing 4 decades and still love them. Been reading them since I was just a wee lad. Eulalia. For Redwall. The Hobbit. I remember my dad reading it to me when I was really little before they got divorced, so when I read it on my own I remembered some parts from then. Plus, it's a great story that I loved. The Name of the Wind. I was jobless for a while. Super depressed. And close to homeless. That book played a huge part in getting me through all of that. I still reread it from time to time. Kitchen Confidential. It's just so honest. The way he reflects about his career while dropping in little bits of knowledge of how the culinary world works. East of Eden. I learned a lot about people and why they are motivated to do the crazy things they do. I also learned that there are people who are just straight up rotten. Can't be fixed. I think it's chapter 3 where he describes Kate as a monster. Comparing that some people are missing an arm or a leg. Kate is missing something in her mind which makes her evil. Hyperion by Dan Simmons. Fabulous sci-fi imagination. Filled with characters, worlds, technology, politics, and innocence which invoke the most vivid movie reel of a story in my mind each time I read it, and the others in the trilogy. Update. Quats. Blew up more than I expected. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. Jurassic Park is the only novel I've sat down with and consumed within 24 hours. I love the movie. But the book is so much more detailed. And the characters so much deeper. And in some cases totally different. Animal Farm. 1. It was a satire too. I knew what it was mocking. 3. It was actually a good story. Ender's Game. I was 16 and a typical jock. Not a reader at all. My chemistry teacher told me to read it. Blew my mind. Yet I know Cart is an extremely questionable human being. My 16-year-old self isn't changed by what the guy is now. 1984 by George Orwell. Not to sound like that person who's woke AF. But it really is a book that gets you thinking. It's both fascinating and frightening. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I first read it when I was 16 for a sci-fi class elective and it blew my mind. It is such an interesting read and it really challenges your perception of society and humanity. Circe and the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I am a fan of any Greek myth interpretation or retelling. But the way that Miller portrays and gets inside the heads of characters that have existed for thousands of years is incredibly unique and powerful. These books do not have to be read together as they just share a world. But would highly recommend both. Though just a side character in both. Her Odysseus might be my favorite. The Book Thief. It's equally heartbreaking as it is wondrous in showing the strong bonds we can make with one another. The Outsiders by S. E. Hinton. Likeable characters. Very strong story and doesn't pull any punches. Best book I had to read in school by far. Catch-22 because I love satire and no other book I've read captures the absurdity of things quite like Heller did. The Martian. Hard, reality-based, science fiction with a smart-ass protagonist in a desperate struggle for survival. Watney displays constant problem-solving that shows real resilience of character. Punctuated with moments of stupidity like anyone would have and humor that anyone would need to live through a disaster. Call of the Wild by Jack London. I love the whole transition and journey of the dog. Also because it's for a change not about people. Hatchet by Gary Paulson. I love the story of survival and perseverance. I have read this book many times in my life and have referenced it throughout my lifetime. I am now a social worker and I work in a psychiatric hospital, and when I do my groups I will ask an icebreaker and have the patients tell me their favorite book. After that I'll give them this book. Tell them what it's about. And use it as an example to continue on in life. to push through adversity and never quit. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin really shows how much possibilities there can be in sci-fi genre. It's not always just spaceships and lasers. It talks about a completely separate alien culture where the concept of genders do not exist, and the different societal norms that come with it. It goes into some more stuff too. The premise of the story is very intriguing and it's very well written. Stephen King's The Stand. It's big and intimidating, but the story is so good and written so well I found myself wanting to savor it. The story and world changed throughout the book. I'm excited to leave it a few more years so I can read it again without knowing quite what is going to happen. Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. Fuck. I don't even know how to explain it. This is some real stuff that'll make you hurt in places you never knew you could hurt. If you're a sucker for a sad/melancholic, but real and honest novel, this is what you need. The Ingenious Gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha by Miguel de Cervantes. Absolutely fabulous novel that is a greatly entertaining read. It's hilarious, relatable, and enthralling. It shows that we are connected to each other across centuries. Written in the early 1600s. But it still holds up. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. The first time I read it I thought it was the best post-apocalyptic book I'd ever read. The second time I read it I realized it was the best love story I'd ever read. The third time I read it is when I knew it was the best book I'd ever read. Around the World in 80 Days, Jules Verne has always been my favorite. Since I was a little kid. Doesn't matter how many times I read it. Always amuses me like no other book. The combination of 19th century popular knowledge and the science fiction of that period shows how far we've come since then. But also how similar our targets are. American Gods from Neil Gaiman. I read the book years ago. Awesome. Because it has lots of surprises. And it contains the biggest and the best stories of the world. Mythologies. Because the mythologies are not made up by one man. They are product of thousands of people. It takes the book to a different level. My main language is Turkish and I am improving my English to read it in its main language. I think then I can fully have the joy the book can give me. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. The reveal of everything in The Shrieking Shack is so brilliantly conceived. Harry Potter has always been as much a mystery series as it's been a fantasy series. But Poe had the best mystery of them all in my opinion. Almost every chapter has an important detail about what has happened/what is happening that can be so easily overlooked. Yet it all fits together well and makes sense in the end. Ironically. It's for this reason I hate the movie. It's clear the movie makers were counting on the fact that you read the book and completely glossed over many points of the mystery that made the book so good. If you've only seen the movie, I highly recommend reading the book. A lot more things will make sense. I promise. It certainly did for my parents when I explained everything to them. Favorite book is House of Leaves simply because of the unique way it presents its story. Favorite story is To Kill a Mockingbird because it's a timeless tale that is easy to read and understand. Probably anything in the Percy Jackson series. It was the first series I read completely through. Thud. By Terry Pratchett. Really all of the Discworld books. Particularly the City Watch series, and Yesterday. The 25th of May. Being a particularly important day for all the Night Watch fans. But for me, Thud. Particularly the crescendo of the action in the last act of the book, it hit me in a way that's hard to describe. I was crying from laughter, frustration, nervousness, and release. It was a truly great book. The Old Man and the Sea. It's an easy read with some really important themes such as resiliency, pride, friendship, empathy, etc. It's beautifully simple and incredibly deep at the same time. Lord of the Flies. It's just so sad and shows what happens with an unstable economy. Top Piggy.